Tyler,
Alex,
we are in the heart of winter now, so I figured, what is your favorite, like,
we are. What is my favorite?
what is your favorite, like, winter animal, like, your, like, winter adapted animal, like,
Ermines.
ermines are great.
For those who
Erm,
don't know, ermines are amazing. They're little weasels,
yes.
about yay big.
Yeah,
Um,
not very big.
but they do the typical winter adaptation of, brown in the summer and fall months, and then coat changes to white whenever it gets cold and winter strikes.
Yes.
Kind of like the snowshoe hare thing, like that.
Yeah.
Snowy owls are also cool.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, I was trying to think of mine, and I think snowy owls up there, like snow fox, those guys are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But you know what else is great? Palace cat.
I didn't really want to consider that like a winter adapted animal,
Oh
but they're
yeah,
cool
they're
because they
so fluffy, and they
they
have a very big tail. And where they're at, it gets so cold that sometimes to warm their little feet up, they'll actually tuck their tail kind of under them and put their paws just on their tail to warm it up, so they're out of the snow. It's great. They're very fluffy.
they're fantastic.
We can't have cats, but that'd be one that'd be like, if I could have cats, I would maybe consider one of them. If I could.
That's how I feel with fennec foxes. It's like, man,
Oh, yes.
I really want one. Or like a bat-eared fox, something with like just cartoonishly funny
Oh,
ears.
yes. The fennec fox is, yeah, it's like a cartoon animal.
But
But, yeah, welcome everybody to Life the Complete Story. I'm Alex, that is Tyler. We are your hosts. And today we are continuing our little walk through amphibians, specifically the frogs and the toads is where we're at right now, the anurans, if you will. But as we always start with a little nature in the news, Tyler, what have you got us today?
I have found an article published by the ACS, the American Chemical Society,
Ooh,
about
yes.
turning exhaust CO2 fumes into useful materials. So what they have done, they have made a device. And this device captures your carbon dioxide, transforming it into a single useful chemical in one step. This
That's
isn't one of those like
that's
multiple
pretty good.
chain
A
reaction.
one-step reaction is to be able to like turn CO2 into something useful is
Yeah.
that's pretty
I,
solid.
the best part is it just takes your straight up exhaust fumes. It doesn't need like straight CO2 to do this.
That's good because
And
there's a lot of other crap in exhaust
yeah,
besides carbon dioxide.
your end result is formic acid, which is used in energy and manufacturing
Yeah,
techniques.
formic acid is the simplest, one of the most simple acids that you can have. I will pull up a picture of the chemical structure for the folks at home while you continue.
Cool. So, anyway,
There we go.
that was quick. Oh,
Yeah. The
yeah,
little
that's super
center
simple.
in the center, for those who are not familiar with chemical structures like this little center point here is a carbon. So in the carbon dioxide, you get two oxygen molecules double bonded to a single carbon, but through this reaction, they're able to add a hydrogen to the carbon and then a hydrogen to the oxygen, and this oxygen hydrogen bond here is what makes it an acid.
Right. So what they've made is they made an electrode. It's a three-layered electrode that allows the CO2 and the exhaust gas to pass through it, traps the carbon dioxide within the electrode, and converts it. So it has the three layers, as I said, the material that captures the CO2, a sheet of gas-permeable carbon paper, and a layer of tin-4 oxide. So
Okay.
the transition metals have that typically a Roman numeral between the metal and the
Yes, that has to
bond to
do
it.
with how many just kind of electrons that it has, like spare electrons. They're kind of funky, the transition metals, because usually you'll get like twos, threes, fours. That's really even
Yeah,
there are some ones as well, I believe.
they're not exactly used in organic chemistry. But
Not a
too
ton.
often.
Not a ton, but they are. Like copper and iron are a good bit, and magnesium's not a transition metal, but copper and iron I think are more often, but you don't see tin too often. But like I would guess the gas permeable carbon paper kind of helps trap some of those larger kind of junk molecules, I would say, that are in exhaust. It's kind of
Right.
separates out the carbon dioxide.
And those allow for that electrode in the whatever way they have it constructed allows for the direct conversion of CO2 into formic acid, and that formic acid, as I said, is important in various different things, fuel cells, a whole bunch of industrial processes that the article doesn't really go into, but it is 40% higher. It has a 40% higher efficiency than current CO2 conversion electrodes with pure CO2 gas, which is what the standard is taking straight
Yeah,
CO2.
makes sense.
But whenever you have a simulated flue gas, what is that, Alex?
Like it's be like probably like
Is that the
exhaust
exhaust?
gas, yeah.
Which
So
is going to be a combination of, I would assume, atmospheric nitrogen, O2 gas.
it says on here it says it's about 15% carbon dioxide, 8% oxygen gas, and 77% nitrogen gas. So not quite atmospheric concentrations because your typical atmospheric oxygen is right around the 20 to 21, like 19 to 21 is typically your atmospheric breathable amount of oxygen. And then most of the rest of that, I think another like 75% is nitrogen gas. Somewhere in the 70% is nitrogen, and then everything else it makes up most of the rest. The vast majority of the atmosphere is nitrogen and oxygen. But that flue gas, like you said, even exhaust is kind of a generic term. You think vehicles, but that could also be like industrial plants, especially things like power plants or like
With
some
their
sort of
smokestacks. Like we have
yes,
smokestack scrubbers that kind of clean the air as it
yeah, it helps.
leaves the smokestack. But
Yeah, it helps get more of like the nitrates and other the really nasty kind of stuff out, but you still get all the CO2 coming out of the stacks.
right. But this is shown to have a substantial conversion rate in comparison to the other modern methods, and it's even shown to be possible capturing CO2 at atmospheric concentrations. So, what do we say? That was like less than 5%, right?
I think so.
Um, and they're saying that some similar designs, tweak the inners a little bit. Maybe don't use maybe without using the tin oxide, but instead of a different catalyst or a catalytic layer inside, can kind of convert other greenhouse gases like methane and things of that nature.
Okay. Yeah, so
Into
currently your like atmospheric CO2 percentage is approximately 0.042% or 420 parts per million, which is what a lot of gases are measured at, is the parts per million or parts per billion, just because it's easier than 0.042% in a lot of cases. So you think there's a million particles of air, 420 of them are CO2. Now this is up, of course, from historic levels, especially like the pre-industrial levels, but we're not going to get into that rabbit hole. But your, like I said, your major gas, I was pretty close actually. Your nitrogen gas is about 78%, and oxygen is around that 21, just under 21%. So 98, 99% of the atmosphere is nitrogen and oxygen, but those remaining gases make up a pretty substantial amount of the rest. Or I shouldn't say substantial. They make up those smaller percentages have a big impact, is what I'm trying to say.
right. So we're able to show that it can take things out of the atmosphere, the CO2 out of the atmosphere, help get it back down to its, pre-industrial levels, and kind of recycle that CO2 back into, industrial uses, fuel cells, other processes like that. But that's all I have. Once again, this was published by the American Chemical Society on January 29th, 2026. Anything else, Alex? Did you like to add?
That's all I have.
All right, we'll move on into our lesson for the day. We wrapped up our talk on Mesobatrachia last week, so we'll be talking about Neobatrachia today. Neobatrachia is going to be the final group of frogs. This is the largest group of frogs, over 5,000 species, making up about 96% of all anurans. They are the most advanced anurans, so these are the neo frogs, the most advanced, therefore the furthest from the basal frogs. They're divided into 5 superfamilies, but that's kind of controversial, as different authors kind of put different families within different superfamilies and things like that. So we're just kind of going to go alphabetically in terms of family as we discuss them. That way we're not adding to the controversy per se.
Yes, and this will split this up into probably 3 episodes. I think is kind of what we figured out.
Once I did the research, I was like, oh yeah, we could do 4 episodes of 6 or 3 episodes of 8. I did 4 groups today.
Okay, so we're gonna have a few episodes here with the Neobatrachia.
Took 4 pages of notes.
Yeah, because as Tyler said, it is making up over 96% of the anurans, so we want to do them kind of the justice they deserve. Right.
So our first group of the day is going to be Amphinathodontidae. It's quite the mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
And I really don't know why they get that name, because they're named the marsupial frogs, but none of those words in that scientific name sound anything like marsupial.
No.
They are native to Neotropical America, so that's going to be like Central and South America, specifically like Costa Rica through the Andes and the Amazon and things like that. They are known as marsupial frogs, as I said. Which means they have a pouch per se. They have a dorsal brood pouch where the eggs are fertilized on the back of the female and then kind of pushed into that pouch by the male using their toes. And then the oxygen is provided to the eggs through the vascular tissues of the female within that pouch. Some of the more unique things about this, in the genus Gastrotheca, the Gunther's marsupial frog is the only anuran known to have real teeth in the lower jaw. Some have like false teeth or like grinding plates, I think, but these are the only ones to have like real teeth in their lower jaws. And the Andean marsupial frog is known to be a pet, and as well as used in different scientific experiments. I wasn't really sure what experiments. It wasn't really clarified in the websites I was using. But there's about 74 species within the genus Gastrotheca. And then our second group of marsupial frogs is going to be Flectonotus. These guys are found in the Andes of Colombia and Venezuela, as well as the islands of Trinidad and Tobago, which this is really confusing to me on how you get that. And you'll see it quite a bit when we talk about neotropical frogs, where it's like, hey, they exist on mainland South America in the Andes, but they also exist on these Caribbean islands. And I don't quite understand where the disconnect is there.
Yeah, that's odd. I'm sure there's some sort of like when ocean levels were a lot lower sort of deal that's going on.
Right. And these guys are found in the pre-montane habitats. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our ecology encyclopedia for the day. And are typically associated with bromelids. Bromelids are a type of plant. Alex, you're a resident plant guy. What's a bromelid?
I believe the bromelids are like your orchids.
I pineapples, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry, pineapple. Yeah, they're. Why did I think? No, sorry, they are the pineapples. Why am I thinking? Why did I think of
I don't know.
orchids? Man. I'm not as good with flowers. I will
I
admit
was,
that.
but I did nail it pretty well in the flower
You
department
weren't.
in botany.
Yeah, you were a lot better at the flowers than I was. But bromeliads are, yeah, like a lot of your like pineapples and related
Yeah.
plants.
So yeah, the Flectonotus group is actually pretty well uh, able to survive with the bromeliads. So in events of forest fires, as long as there's a couple bromeliads left, they're pretty hardy in those environments. But that's all I have for that group. That was the two genera within Amphinathodontidae. Alex, you want to take us into our next group?
Yes, sir. Our next group is Aromabatidae. These are the cryptic forest frogs or cryptic poison frogs. So they are a sister taxa to the poison dart frogs, which was the picture that I had originally pulled up when we were starting Neobatrachia at the very beginning, that nice bright blue frog. Um, so some of the members of this family do secrete a very strong odor, but they are non-toxic. Um, so they're poison frogs with air quotes. Um, they deposit small clutches of eggs in terrestrial nests, so they actually build small nests, and then upon hatching, the parents will transport the tadpoles to the water. There are 5 genera within this family. Anomaloglossus. This is endemic to the Guyana shield. His name means irregular tongue. The glossus, that makes sense for shield, or for tongue. The members, this irregular tongue is because the members bear a median lingual process, which is a median, which is like middle, protuberance or process located on the dorsal surface of the tongue, often larger than the fungiform or filiform papillae. That's a mouthful of things that I did not understand.
So the way I understood that was it was like their tongue is like thinner at the front and the back end, and kind of thicker,
Like
or has like
wider
a
at the
yeah
middle.
yeah.
Okay.
That's how I understood it.
Okay, so I'm guessing like the fungiform or filiform has to do with the shape. If it's kind
Hmm.
of like that mushroom shape or like a more of like a filamented shape of the tongue.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Um, the dorsal skin is posteriorly granular, so it gets kind of bumpy as it gets further back, and they have webbed toes and weakly expanded discs on the fingers. So you can kind of see in the picture I pulled up, they have kind of small little discs on the fingers to help them climb. And the toes are not really webbed, which makes sense for more terrestrial frogs. The next genera is Rheobates. They are endemic to Colombia. They are cryptic colored frogs with very extensive toe webbing. They tend to live in riparian habitats, often associated with the streams of sub-Andean forests. So riparian habitat are your border habitats between like a water ecosystem and a land ecosystem, which makes sense for why they would have a lot more toe webbing. They spend time swimming as well as on land. The next genus is Aromabates. These are the skunk frogs. They're difficult to differentiate from Allobates, which is a later genera, without using molecular markers. They are small to medium frogs, about 1 to 2.5 inches, depending on the species, and the webbing also varies between the species, some possessing only the basal webbing at the very end, like the very bottom of the toes, close to the actual like hand or foot, whereas some are fully webbed. The next genus is Menoprinae, or Prinae. These are native to Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago. These are the fingered poison frogs. Not a whole lot about these guys. And then lastly is the Alibates. They are native to Central and South America from Nicaragua down to Bolivia and Brazil. They're mostly small frogs with that cryptic coloration, meaning they kind of blend in more, as you can see in the picture I pulled up. They're kind of those brownish, darker colors to blend in with their environment. They're pretty typically terrestrial, found in leaf litter of rainforests, thus the brown coloration. They blend into the dead leaf litter.
That'll move us into our next group, Arthroleptidae. These guys are a group of African frogs found in sub-Saharan Africa. These guys include African tree frogs as well as squeakers, or screeching frogs, as well as several other genera. First genera we're going to talk about is Arthroleptis. These guys are known as the squeakers and screeching frogs. They're terrestrial breeders, and they have direct development where the eggs kind of develop, have that tadpole stage within the egg, and then hatch directly into froglets from within. They range in size from about a ½ inch to 2 inches, so that small to medium range. I think we're kind of clarifying like an inch and a half and less is small, and a medium is like inch and a half to like 3 or 4 inches. Anything more than that is a large frog. Larger species have been found to have evolved from the smaller species, so rather than shrinking as they evolve, they've kind of grown as they've evolved.
Interesting. Usually it's the opposite.
Right. Our next group is going to be Cardioglossa. These are the long-fingered toads. They're native to West and Central Africa, with the greatest richness in Cameroon. They're found near streams of the lowland and mountain forests, and they only grow to about an inch and a half. Our next group is Astylostonis, also known as the night frogs, found in from Sierra Leone all the way to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Then we have Leptodactylodon. These are egg frogs. I don't quite know why they get the name egg frog, because all frogs lay eggs. Most frogs lay eggs, my bad.
Yeah.
And I highly doubt they eat eggs, because that would require them to be kind of large.
It depends on the eggs.
Fair enough. But they're found in Nigeria, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. Our next group is Nyctobates. This is a monotypic genera, so that means there's one species within this genus. They are found in Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and Nigeria. They're found in the humid forest, but not marshy. So like it still has to be dry on the forest floor, but has a lot of moisture in the air, and they require a closed canopy. I don't quite know.
I'm sure that has to do with the sun. Probably is pretty. Probably dries them out too quickly. They may have like thin skin, and it causes a lot of damage pretty quickly.
Even if it's humid, the skin still that's open, the exposed sun kind of. Yeah, I guess. And breeding occurs in fast, clean, watered streams. Our next group is going to be Scotobleps, another monotypic genera. This is the Gabon forest frog. They're medium sized, about 2 inches in males and 2.8 inches in the females. They have large, broad heads with an obtusely pointed snout. They have rather large eyes and moderately elongated fingers and toes. And their toes are about half-webbed, so it goes about halfway up the length of the toe. They have smooth skin with flat warts the further you get towards the posterior. And they inhabit low altitudes and lowland rainforests, and breeding occurs in shallow streams with sandy banks. Our last group, second to last group for this family is going to be Trichobatrachus. This is the hairy frog. Alex, thank you. You're on it.
There's one that needs a picture.
Yeah. So their name is comes from the hair-like structures on the body around the thighs. They grow to about 3 to 5 inches, so medium to large frog. They have a large head with a short, rounded snout, as you can see in the picture. They have paired internal vocal sacs in breeding males, and the hairs are believed to have arteries that helps increase surface area for oxygen absorption, kind of like a pseudo pair of external gills. And that is believed to be because after the eggs are laid, the males provide parental care and actually kind of watch the eggs, which is I don't want to say rare in frogs, but it's not exactly the most common thing. Most of the time, you kind of just lay the eggs and let them go. only in like certain brooding species do you see any parental care. Um, the frogs themselves are terrestrial, but the eggs are laid in masses, uh, typically stuck to rocks within streams. And the tadpoles are rather muscular and are carnivorous, eating slugs and a variety of other small invertebrates, mostly arthropods like grasshoppers, uh, spiders, things of that nature. And they are similar to that African clawed frog we've been talking about for the past couple weeks. They're known to break their bones and their toes to show off a retractable claw as a defense mechanism. And they are found throughout Cameroon, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon, Nigeria, and Angola. And our last group for the day is going to be Leptopellis. These guys are the forest tree frogs, or the big-eyed frogs. They grow up to 1.5 inches, but the palm forest tree frog in particular has been known to reach about 3.5 inches. They have extended digit tips, and so you can kind of make it out in the picture. The toes are much longer in comparison to the rest of the foot. And they have a tympanum, which is like an eardrum type structure found in terrestrial amphibians. You can kind of make it out. It's like that circle right behind their eyes.
Right. See my cursor? It's right here. It's kind of just like a little disc. It's basically an external eardrum.
And they are mostly arboreal, but as they go into more arid habitats, they grow more terrestrial, and some species are even fossorial or burrowing species. And their breeding period starts at the beginning of the wet season, and the eggs are deposited either in water or on the ground, depending on how much moisture is in the air. And that's going to do it for today's lesson. Covered 3 groups today. We have about 20-ish left to go. And we'll move on, Alex, into our reoccurring segments. I'll let you kick it off. What do you want to cover? Duckweed?
Yeah, we can start with our most wanted. So our most wanted for this week is duckweed, or known as primarily plants of the subfamily Lemnoideae, also known as water lentils or water lenses. They are a species of plant that floats on or just below the surface of slow or still bodies of water, such as in freshwater or wetlands, so like ponds or even smaller lakes. That's why it's called duckweed, because it's something that ducks do like to eat because of those kind of slow-moving habitat. The waterfowl will eat it, and as well as it can be spread because it sticks to the feathers of waterfowl and can be spread to other water systems, other ponds, wetlands, things like that. It is consumed in Southeast Asia as kind of a sort of like a vegetable, which it is actually pretty good for you. Has more protein per square meter than soybeans, and contains vitamins that are very important, such as B12, and a lot of minerals and carotenoids, which are things like beta carotene found in carrots. So it would be a good food source, but the problem is it is invasive because it survives very well in those high nutrient habitats like wetlands and pond ecosystems, and are considered a nuisance species because they grow so rapidly and spread so readily that they then turn those ecosystems into very low in nutrients because they suck all the nutrients out of them.
Kind of like an algal bloom.
Yes, very similar to an algal bloom. Kind of causes similar problems because it causes some of those areas become more oligotrophic, which means that they are kind of those become very low level nutrient systems. They have a lot of plants, and they're kind of there's not a lot of stuff going on. It's mostly kind of just I don't want to say a dead area, but it is a very low nutrient area. And so it's an area like this, like the Everglades, which there's a lot of plant life and animal life, but in the actual waters and soils themselves, there's not a ton of nutrients. So whenever they get it, they have to use it as much as they can. And because of how readily that duckweed will uptake the nutrients out of the water, and especially when you get chemical fertilizers that run into the waterways, then these populations explode and outcompete native plants like sawgrass, and then continue to spread and thrive. And like I said, they're able to reproduce asexually, so that if it gets stuck to like a duck's feathers, they can be introduced to a new pond, and then it can then reproduce as well. And they do have flowers as well, but they're small. And since they're kind of a surface floating plant, they really don't have roots. If they have them, they're very reduced. Most of their nutrient uptake is just directly into the green part of the plant itself. But there's some things that have been kind of shown that they may be useful because they're very good at nitrate removal if they are cropped, as well as things like bioremediation for some of those heavier minerals like nitrogen and phosphates. But problem is they suck all of it out of the water. So it's kind of a catch-22 with this plant, because while it does suck a lot of nutrients out of the water, outcompetes native plants, they also work as kind of water filters, kind of removing toxins, nitrates, phosphates, things that cause problems within waterways. And they've even been considered as a good candidate for making biofuel, because it grows so quickly, and it actually has 5 to 6 times as much starch as corn per unit area. So like however many square feet, or like an acre of duckweed has 5 to 6 times as much starch as corn. And even it said duckweed has been shown to double its biomass in less than 4.5 days. So less than a week, it can double its biomass. So it's a problem because it causes so many issues within the waterways. But if it can be controlled and done properly, it could become a beneficial plant. But for the most part, especially in areas like the Everglades that are so large and widespread, it is mostly a problem.
NASA's trying to utilize duckweed as a hydroponic food source.
Yes.
Since they don't require any soil, you can just kind of like throw it in water and it'll survive.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's cool. Once again, it's that double-edged sword of, it's really bad if it's in the wrong spot, but it can also be really good for a lot of things. Anything else to add, Alex?
No.
Alright, I will take it over for my amazing species for today. We are talking the hidden squeaker frog.
The hidden squeaker.
Yeah, so this is Arthroleptis fichica. This was assessed in 2024. I don't think it's been published yet. I see no information on whether or not it has. But it's assessed and as endangered, my bad, as it has only been found in 3 locations in Tanzania. The yellow regions on Alex's map are its extant ranges, known only from the West Usambara, South Pear, and North Pear. I guess those are smaller ranges within the Eastern Arc Mountains, and they're only found from about 1,300 meters to 2,000 meters above sea level. It is known to live within the Kinderoko Forest Reserve, the Chome Nature Forest Reserve, the Ambangulu Forest Reserve, and the Baga 2 Forest Reserve. And its extent of occurrence is only about 3,000-ish square kilometers, and is considered to occur in uh, those three areas and their threat-defined locations. Uh, there's not a estimated number of mature individuals, uh, but there's only a known few specimens per mountain, um, and it is a really small cryptic frog, not easily found. So it might not be that they're that rare per se. They're hard to spot. Look, Alex, pull the picture back up. It does really just look like a wet leaf.
Yeah.
They are terrestrial, living in forests, hence why they have that leaf shape as well as cryptic coloration. And their typical threats are agriculture, fires. They're like a bycatch-ish of trapping, as well as invasive species, which seems to be chytrid.
Yeah, chytrid fungus.
Yeah.
No surprise there.
Nope. And a lot of encroachment of agriculture and logging for a long, long time, it seems. There's no information on like pet trade or anything like that, and it does occur in a couple protected areas. That's all I have for these guys. Alex, do you have anything you found kind of interesting on these guys?
I mean, you said those protected areas, however, are areas that have been like mountains that have been pretty heavily forested, and were then logged pretty heavily. So while they are protected, I'm sure there's still some habitat remediation that needs to occur before the species can really start to get back a little bit. But with the danger of the chytrid fungus, who knows what that would look like.
Right. And I will throw it back over to you, Alex, for well, it's more of a group effort here, but
Yes.
We'll talk about our ecology encyclopedia. We're talking about ecosystem stratification.
Yes.
Specifically in like mountain ecosystems.
Yes. So a little bit background: ecosystem stratification is typically like a vertical stratification. So if you think in like a forest environment, you have your floor-dwelling species, so like your low plants that are very shade tolerant, your terrestrial animals like some of the frogs we talked about today, some of your mammals. Then you get up into like the different layers. You get like your taller bushes, your smaller trees, and then under the canopy, and then on top of the canopy of the trees. In mountains, it usually looks a little different. This has more to do with temperature, oxygen concentration, is the biggest thing. So in a lot of your mountains, you'll see very heavily forested areas leading in the base of it, and as they go up, the plant life tends to get shorter and less. Trying to think of how to put it. Like shorter is the way, like less woody, tends to be more herbaceous. So in the picture I pulled up, you can see like you'll have like a very nice deciduous tree forest going up, and then once you start getting up the mountain, it starts to get colder, especially. You more of like your coniferous trees, like your pines, your hemlocks, things like that. They tend to be more tolerant to the cold and the lower oxygen. And then as you continue to get higher, you start to get like your bushes, and then into more of a kind of like a meadow, quote unquote, more grassland environment. And then you continue to get up, you get your very low lying plants, like some of your bryophytes, your ferns, and then to your mosses and lichens, until eventually your temperatures get so cold and the oxygen levels get so low that it just becomes bare rock. And this, when we talk about especially some of our endangered species, why we mention the elevation that they're found at is because that actually does play a pretty big role in where some species are found. You won't find like reptiles really higher up in the mountains because it is colder. and you typically don't find a lot of really big animals that stay higher up in the mountains because it is colder, the oxygen levels are lower, so it is harder for them to stay there long term. They can travel there for short term, and especially if they're kind of adapted, they're used to that environment. But typically, as it gets further up, you start to see your smaller organisms. Even you will see some amphibians that tend to, especially when you're in the tropical areas where that cold line tends to be higher because it is already warmer. Um, you'll find more like amphibians, and you get some mammals, and eventually as you get higher up, you start to get smaller mammals, and then above there, it's mostly like your arthropods, very small mammals, and eventually, like I said, that barren rock, there's really not a whole lot that's living up there long term. Maybe some birds might nest up there, but they have to be pretty well adapted to the cold and the oxygen levels, which birds typically are pretty oxygen tolerant.
Right, because they live up there
Yeah.
in the air for the most part.
Yes.
And the zones change as you go different places. So like obviously the stratification in the Rockies or the Alps is a lot different than in the Andes or like the African mountains, because it's tropical regions. You know, there's in the Andes they have like the cloud forests.
Yes.
Where
there's
at the higher elevation, there's still a rainforest. It's such a where you have more of an open grassland in the Rockies. There's still like a rainforest because it's still at a temperature where and the humidity is still high enough that those more woody plants can survive.
Yeah, and the thing with the cloud forest, because of that humidity, but you get that cold layer of air above it, it keeps that moist air lower to the ground. That's why they're called cloud forests, because they're basically covered by that cloud cover, which helps things like amphibians because it maintains a lot of moisture over time. Because the other thing with being up on mountains, they're not blocked by the wind like down in valleys, so you get a lot of wind. Like wind chill is a big thing, something we've talked about a lot. It being in the American Northeast, we've got about a foot of snow outside right now. But that wind does play a factor because it will dry things out as well as make it feel that much colder.
Right. Anything else to add, Alex?
That is all I've got for this. Kind of a shorter one today, but it's interesting, cool to see, especially when you look at it more in depth.
And we've talked kind of about stratification before, because it's not just mountains that are stratified. You can think of like ecosystem stratification on the opposite end in terms of like lakes, lake ecosystems, and ocean ecosystems. We've talked about the different littoral zone and things like that. When we're talking more about fish, obviously, because they live in the oceans and the lakes. But it's the same concept where, you know, there's less oxygen, there's less light, so it's straight. You can see the difference in the zone. It's kind of like how you can on a mountain. Mm-hmm. But we will wrap it up with our final segment, our From the Vault for today. We are talking about caudates. Caudates are a ancient group which contains, you know, our modern day Urodellans, our salamanders, but they also contain a lot more groups, about 6 other subgroups, which were ancient salamander groups. Each one individually doesn't have much, but as a group, you can kind of compare the differences between our modern day salamanders and some of these more ancient ones. So you can see, like, most of it comes in a molecular study, because it's not much you can tell based off of just bone structure per se, other than glaring differences. And a lot of these you can tell it's differences that took place kind of like right after salamanders came from the lobe-finned fishes, was when a lot of these differences were starting to take place. So they would kind of they made the one big branch into salamanders, and then took a million little branches off to form each of these smaller groups, which that since it was such a small period of time where this branching took place, and it happened so fast, it kind of is attributed to why there's so few amphibian fossils from this time period. And the earliest known ones include the member Caudates honorarius, which is from the Balabonsai Formation in Kyrgyzstan. So they have a lack of arrested growth lines, so it was believed they had a stable condition for their whole lifespan. So, some other members include Marmorepton and Cororis, other groups of salamanders from that time period. And they're grouped in that because they have a similar skull structure as well as vertebra structure. And they looked like very robust modern-day salamanders, but lacked quite a few anatomical features. Some resembled modern-day mole salamanders, and based off of their anatomy, were believed to have a similar burrowing lifestyle. And that's really all I have for these guys. So that'll wrap us up for today. Again, I've been Tyler. That's been Alex. Thank you for joining us on Life, the Complete Story. Make sure to follow us. Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Music, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. At Life Complete Story. At Life, the Complete Story. Really helps us out. If you follow, leave a review, comment, whatever you got to do. Help us on the algorithms. Make sure that recommend us to your friends. Send us an email at lifecompletestory@gmail.com for things that don't quite fit in that comment box, or any other questions, ideas you have for the show, anything like that. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Life Complete Story for clips, amazing species, other facts, articles that we find interesting that don't quite make it into the episodes. And I think I covered it all. Alex?
As we say at the end of every episode, keep on learning, learn something new. You'll never know what you find interesting. But I've been Alex, and that's been Tyler. We were your hosts today on Life, the Complete Story, and we will see you next time.